hello, going. Hello. There. Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Mother You Know, the Woman You Don't, a podcast about mothers and daughters. And thank you so much for tuning in for another week and another episode. I am Lydia. I'm here with my sister Dorcas, my mom Sylvia, and our guest tonight is a really good friend of mine named Kayla Leal. Hello. And we're going to talk to Kayla tonight about her story and, learn about her life. And Kayla, for those people who don't, or, for those people who don't know, we have been friends for about 14, 15 years now. Don't remember ever meeting you. You were just there at church with Shane and April, who the audience have already met now. So you're just another member of that little clique, that unclicky clique.
You saved the best for last.
Yes. Right. Kayla's gonna wrap it up.
I scared her, guys.
Yes. Listen, Kayla is very. I think you did. You scared the crap out of me in the beginning, just because you're just so matter of fact, and you're also you're sarcastic and have a dry sense of humor. I think if you know you know you. But if you I think for whatever, I think we were like at Chili's. I don't know why I have this memory of us like being at Chili's and you scaring the crap out of me. But soon learned that you're also a ride or die. You're a foxhole girl, and
Absolutely.
I think one of the best things I can say about you, Kayla, is I always equate you, and I've said this to Shane too about you, is that you are present. And the best thing I can say is, like, if I'm griping about like boys that, stupid boys that I've cried over, and you know what I'm talking about, like in the past, like, but you're there with me. Like, you look people in the eyes and you listen to what they're saying, and you don't actively listen like one of those people who just shake their head for no reason. You're just there. If there's somebody who needs something from you, you're just present and in it. And I always feel like if you're somebody that I'm consoling it or looking for something from, you're always just there, and you say it how it is, but you say it lovingly, and so you're there.
I'll always be a matter of fact, but I'd never do anything to purposely hurt someone's feelings. But I may not always tell you what you want to hear, but I am going to tell you what you need to hear.
Yes, you're very good at that. You're very good people, Kayla.
Thanks.
So let's just start, and you can just kind of tell your story about who you are. Your mother. We had some technical issues, so your mama, Miss Judy, couldn't be here tonight. We're going to do another episode with Miss Judy so we can hear her story. But let's just start about you. Let's just kind of start talking about, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you were raised and your relationship with your mom, and just kind of start off with where you were born and what your life was like as a kid.
Okay. Well, I know y'all already heard a lot about, from my mom, but she'll be on another day because of her technical issues. But I grew up in Channelview, born in 1971, back when it was, well, I wasn't born in Channelview, but I grew up in Channelview. Always lived in the Houston area. The youngest of 4 girls, and my childhood was for the most part, it was ideal. Everybody had their hard times and stuff like that, but we always, we didn't have a lot of money, but we never really knew it. My mom and dad were really good about hiding that, We always had what we needed, not always what we wanted, but who does, I guess. It was perfect in most ways, and then typical in others, I guess you can say. My dad wasn't always present. I've always had a very close relationship with my mom, and my grandparents. My mom's parents we lived next door to them when I was growing up. I always had a very close relationship with them and with my mom. I just remember growing up, Dad when he was there and he was present and he was great, but there were times when he wasn't there. And they were married for 32 years, and he decided he was done, didn't love her anymore, and walked out. And there were a lot of contributing factors to that, I guess, but I kind of based it on his childhood growing up. He didn't have a great childhood growing up, and you can only use that, for so long before after a while you kind of use it as a crutch and for an excuse to just not be a good person all the time. So
Yeah.
that kind of went way out of what you were asking, I guess. But
What's your story?
I
No,
had,
but you grew up with your grandmother and your mom. So what were
oh yeah.
they like in your life when you were younger?
Well, like I said, my grandparents, from the time I was 5 years old until, well, from the time I was 5 until maybe 8 or 9, they lived next door to us. And they moved to East Texas. And they came back when I was, maybe high school or getting, towards the end of my high school. So when they came back and they lived in the same area. But we always, went back and forth and visited with them. My grandparents were,
That's your mom's parents.
my mom's.
Okay.
My dad's parents were, they were the kinds that we would see them like at Christmas, or we would see them on occasion. We just didn't see them very much. But I can't remember a summer that I wasn't at my grandparents, for at least a couple of weeks in the summer. They were always traveling. We were always going up there. They were coming down here. They were just a constant in my life. And there's kind of a point to that for whenever we start talking about me and my kids. I would say that my mom and my grandmother, Mimi and Tappy were their names. They were just always there. They were just the epitome of what grandparents should be, what you would expect. And I can't remember a time in my life when there wasn't anything that I needed, be it, in any capacity. They were always there and ready to do whatever they could to make sure that my sisters know provided for, and help my mom whenever they could. So they were just, I had a great childhood where they were concerned, for sure. And my mom's amazing. She's great. She's a great woman.
Yeah. So cute.
I think anybody that meets my mom, anybody that knows my mom, especially my friends growing up, anybody that's met her, they know how lucky I am and how blessed I am to have her, So
I know that just based on like what we've, talked to her about already, but growing up, your mom didn't go back to work. Was she like when you were little, was she at home with you, or did she work when you were little, or?
I remember, how you can think back to certain parts of your life and you're like, why you remember certain things is kind of crazy. I remember being in kindergarten and her dropping me off for kindergarten and me like running out the door chasing after her because I didn't want her to leave me, and her giving me her apple that she was going to have for lunch to make me happy. Why I remember that, I don't know. But
it's a core memory. It's something. It's some kind of comfort,
Again, one of those things. She probably didn't want to go, but knew she had to go, and so she just gave me something of hers to make me feel better, And so I guess probably she went to work when I was maybe 4 or 5, or kindergarten age, maybe 5 years old. And I remember she worked part-time at a doctor's office, an ear, nose, and throat specialist. Ear, nose, and throat, yeah. Dr. Spence. I don't know how or why. My dad's always worked in chemical plants. He's always been, always done shift work, always, always done work in the chemical plants, the chemical industry. And Mom did that. And then after, I guess shortly after that, when I was in elementary school, so she would only work for that doctor for maybe a year, if that. And then she went to work at a law firm doing like legal assistant, legal secretary. And she did that from the time I was in elementary school up through after I was married. She's always been in that industry. Different offices, but no, they'd be truly different offices, but she's always worked in that industry.
Yeah.
She retired from that industry. Yeah.
what do you remember about, like, what are some funny things you remember? Because your mom, we met her for a few minutes, but
Yeah.
she seems like she'd be a hoot. So what are some funny memories, or just something you think back and think, God, I can't believe she did that, or just a memory of her that you remember growing up?
Yeah,
You're the youngest one of four, so there's four
yeah,
girls and her, which is a lot of estrogen.
a lot of
So,
extra. My poor dad. No wonder he left.
You must times five. She's like, I'm out. He's like, please, I've had enough.
Uh, I can't think of anything like really silly or like
Yeah.
goofy that she did, but I can
Yeah.
think of certain things that we used to do. So just as a family, even um, like one night a week, Thursday nights was we would clean and do laundry was Thursday nights, and so after school or after work, we would come home, never to make plans. That's when we would do laundry and all that, so we didn't have to do it on the weekends. And so that was our laundry night and stuff like that. And she would put in her 8 track, and we would listen to Hall and Oates or, whatever. One of those, back when we had those really big stereos, but we would just listen to music. And that's one thing I remember is there was always music in our house. And I was raised listening to, the Beach Boys, Hall and Oates, to Merle Haggard, to, just Motown. I mean, everything. I have an appreciation for all types of music, and that's her fault.
Yeah.
So we would, so that there was always music, there was always dancing, and just having fun. We just always had fun.
Yeah.
So.
You see her, you have a good relationship with your mom. Do you feel like I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it for those at home. But, the relationship you have with your mother, has always seemed very open and very close with her. And like you feel like you can tell your mom stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's one of those things that, we've learned from this is not everybody can talk to their mother. Not everybody can, tell her the good and the bad. Do you feel like if there was something bad, you would tell her the bad stuff too?
I could. I wouldn't. Obviously, no, I never want to. I would never want to. No one wants to hurt mama, or have them think poorly of them, or actually, it's just a disappointment. That.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to disappoint.
Yeah.
I could handle mom being mad at me. I could handle any of that, but no one wants to disappoint their parents.
Yeah.
Their mom, me,
Yeah.
especially my mom. I could absolutely tell her anything. She is unconditional love. That's just what she is. And growing up, I'm sure there are plenty of times when we all work everybody's nerves. But I never one time ever felt like I wasn't loved.
Yeah.
I was
Well,
never felt the disappointment. Just,
Yeah.
it's good.
So were you a easy child, do you think? Or do you think you were were you a hellion growing up, or were you
Absolutely
laid
not.
back?
I actually, my sister, if my sister's listening to this, they're gonna roll their eyes. I was really good. And the reason I was good is because I learned from their mistakes.
Yeah.
So my oldest sister, Kim, is 6 years older than me. And we lived in a small house. We lived in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So I always shared a room growing up. And so there wasn't a whole lot that happened in that house that you heard everything.
Yeah.
And so when someone got in trouble at school, or somebody stayed out past curfew, or somebody, did something, you knew about it. And so, I really did. I was actually kind of a chicken. I didn't want to disappoint my mom. If I was out on a date, and which I didn't really date that much, but if I was on a date and it was getting close to curfew, I was like, dude, you better take me home. Take me home. So I learned a lot from their mistakes.
Yeah.
Do you think that, because you said, you're the baby of the four. Do you think you said you didn't want to disappoint your mom, but were you the typical baby? Like, did you get away with more because you could?
I don't think so, but probably. I
we
what
asked
your
the
sister say?
sisters. What were your sisters?
Yeah.
You're asking the wrong girl. um, I don't think so, but I can honestly tell you that I I think my mom and dad were so tired by the time it got around to me that they were. I got away with a whole lot more because they were just like whatever, you know.
So always
You
say
want
that
Jamie
first
for
child.
breakfast? Eat a Katie for breakfast.
Yeah.
Right.
The first child,
Yeah.
you're proving that you can be a good parent, and by the last one, you're just like, whatever. I already
Yeah.
proved I could be a
And
good
that's
parent.
what everybody does, you know. Everybody does.
I guess typical.
Yeah. So I think that probably applies to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But I can honestly say, I mean, I wasn't a bad kid.
Yeah.
Don't talk to Shane. I was nowhere remotely close to that girl.
Sorry,
She
well,
didn't
Shane
tell
was-
us.
And but you know, I was
Oh, well,
speaking-
she did. She does because they did bad stuff, but she did.
Yeah.
Well, I could
bad.
do
It was just
stories.
truthful.
Right,
Yes.
right. No,
was
Because
your
you
mother,
wouldn't.
yeah, so was your mother the disciplinarian in your family?
Yeah, she was they shared that job. My mom was the step in. She would step in because my dad my dad was a little much when he would discipline.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
my mom would definitely be like a referee, if you will, or there was probably a lot of things that happened that my dad never knew about because my mom knew that you just wouldn't work. That it wasn't. Don't get me wrong, my dad was not abusive. I wasn't beaten as a child, but he did cross the line on a few occasions.
Yeah.
And so, you know, my mom would always make sure that when she could keep that from happening, she did. So she did this. I mean, I've seen a switch before. I've gotten a switch before.
Did you
Did
have
you
to
have to
go
pick
home?
your
Did you have to go out and get
on the
it
tree?
yourself?
Yes. Yes, and then you make the mistake where you get the one that's really big so it doesn't hurt. That didn't work either.
Nope.
It's a balance because you don't want the teeny tiny one because that's going to sting. But then the
Yeah.
big one is just going to piss your mama off
And she's gonna go
for
get
being
this.
a smarty or something, and you got to get one in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
You accidentally get all the
something
peanuts
that,
on it or something.
That's something that the younger generation, we just don't hear those stories anymore, and I think it's
It's a disservice.
yeah.
Listen.
Like you never had to pick your own switch, and it shows.
Yes,
Right.
that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
It is obvious.
And a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
would
them
think-
need to.
I would think this lady wants me to go get a stick so she can beat me with it. You know, somebody told me it was abuse. I thought, well, you know, not really.
Yeah.
And you know, I turned out okay. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we all did. We did.
Yeah.
We did.
Yep. So when did you? So let's see. You went through high school. You clearly weren't a bad kid. Great kid.
you know what?
so-
I wish I had been a little. I have regrets. I wish I had been a little bit more of a rebel, but you know, I
Yeah.
wasn't.
Brave. We call it braves.
Yeah.
I wish,
Brave.
but
Yeah. So after you graduated high school, what were your plans or dreams? What did you want to do when you come out of high school and are starting your life?
I was ready to go to college. I wanted to go to Texas A&M
Mm-hmm.
and applied to Texas A&M, but I didn't go because it was just expensive. I couldn't afford it. So I went to San Jacinto College, like most folks I
In
know
Channel
did.
View.
Go
Yeah.
Gators.
The old
Yes,
go
13th
Gators.
grade.
That's
Yep.
right.
If you know, you know.
That's right. I wanted to be an attorney, and I wanted to go into government. I wanted to be. I never had aspirations of being president, but I wanted to be like in some type of government film. That's what I wanted to do. So
Okay.
You
So
did
what-
so good at
What
that.
stopped you at San Jack? What stopped you from doing that?
Ruben Leal.
Love the
Always,
room.
always a man.
Yeah. It's all his fault.
I was gonna say a man crashing dreams, but that's probably not true. It's probably making new dreams.
Yeah, my It's just changed a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
No, so I graduated high school in '89, and I met Ruben in 1990, the early part of 1990. So I was just barely out of high school, and then we started dating. We dated for 2 years, and then I got out. Then I was pregnant,
Mhm.
and so that was the end of that. That was the end of that career.
Yeah. Same, sister. Same.
Yeah.
So,
That's
and so you got pregnant with your son, Jake. And how old were you?
I was 20. I was 20 when I almost 21 when I had him. So
Okay.
like that makes it better. But yeah,
I mean, you're
21.
still young.
I was almost legal.
You were young. That's still very like this. Dorcas was 19 and 20, like when she
I
had,
was-
you
I
y'all
was
are
young.
babies,
Yeah, I look at my kids now and think, holy crap, there's no way that they couldn't have done it. I don't know how I did it, but there's no
Yeah.
way they could have done it at that age.
Were you scared? Like when you found out you were pregnant, were you scared or
Oh, yeah.
excited or?
I was not excited, not at all. I was very scared. In fact, I'd gone to a clinic, and I grew up in a household where, well, first off, you don't have sex outside of marriage, but you definitely don't have abortions. And so I was so scared to tell my mom because honestly, youngest of 4 girls, and all three of my sisters at that point had kids, but two of them had kids out of wedlock. And I didn't want to disappoint my mom again. So I was just like, I'm sorry, but I can't do it. I cannot go through with this pregnancy. So Ruben and I went to this clinic, and made the appointment and scheduled the appointment. And later that night we were at Taco Bell, just sitting there, and he just looked at me and he said, please don't do this. We can, we'll make this work. Please don't do this. So he was brave and I was brave, and we went to the house, and I walked in the door and I said, Mom, I need to talk to you. And she looked at me and said, crap. She knew.
Judy knew.
Like, oh, God.
Yeah, Mama's know.
She knew right away. But you know what? I think that I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, but even the things that aren't meant to be, God can turn something around and make it into such a blessing. And I can't imagine how different my life would be had I gone through with that decision. And I'm so thankful that I didn't.
Yeah.
God knew what was coming. God was I think God put that on Ruben's heart, that God gave Ruben the bravery that you needed,
And
for that.
Ruben's dad, as you know, is a preacher.
I started to say he was the pastor of the
Yeah.
Spanish
He's the pastor's
ministry
son.
there at the church. He was one of them PKs.
So yeah,
Good choice.
Yeah.
Choice. Yeah.
So what was your mom's reaction after you told her? Like, was she disappointed, or was she just like in and out? Because I talk about mine. It's like you dread that disappointment. You tell them, they're disappointed, and then it was immediately over.
Oh yeah.
And it was what we experienced.
I think that, she was disappointed, and my mom's a bit of a worrywart. So she's always, if you're not worrying enough, she's going to worry some for you. And if she were still on the podcast right now, I would say this with her sitting here, so my mom's always been that way. So I was concerned that she would kind of take that on too. And she did to an extent, but yeah, she got over it pretty quickly.
Yes.
So
and what about Ruben's parents? How was that telling them?
Well, actually, Ruben's mom passed away like 5 months before we started dating. So I never got to know his mom, but his dad was, there was a language barrier there. So if he had something badly to say about me, I never heard it. And Ruben didn't read it.
Solve that.
But again, I don't think that the disappointment lasted very long. He was pretty excited.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, that's
they got excited. I mean, it's like there's nothing you can do about it, so you may as well get on board.
Yeah, and be happy.
And they did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Oh, sorry.
how many kids do you have?
I
How
have
many
three.
kids do you have? 3.
I have Jacob. He is 32. And then I have twin girls that
Mhm.
are 27. They'll be 28 in August.
Yes,
So,
it's like, girl, you look too young to have anybody that's 32.
thank you.
You're looking good. Yeah,
I'll
so
be
you have
50. I'll be 53 in August. So,
Oh,
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
yeah. You look good, girl.
You don't
Thank
look like
you.
you're 53, girl. At all.
Some days I feel it. But thank you. I appreciate that.
I like wake up, you're
Yeah.
like, my toe hurts today. I feel 53.
Yeah.
Crap.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to go back and kind of back up just a little bit as we, talked a little bit about this before, but I talked a little bit about Keely. So, you talked about your mom, you talked about your sisters had babies and all that, but your second sister, because it goes Kim, Keely,
No, it's Kim, Carrie, Keely, Kayla.
Kim,
So
Karen,
she's
Keely, Keely. Yeah.
she's
So,
I don't know if you can see that. She's
Yeah.
KB3. So me and my other two sisters all got this in her memory. So we're KB 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so she's KB3.
Cute.
So
so your sister did pass away.
yeah,
Before
she
we do
got
that, so let's talk about kind of tell us, if you don't mind, just kind of what happened that day, and that
Okay.
we'll talk about the effect that it had obviously on your mother and your family and your sisters and things. So kind of
Yeah.
tell us a little bit. Tell us about your sister, because she was a mother. So
Yeah,
what was she like?
So Keely was, if you think I'm sarcastic, man, she I learned from her. I learned from the best. She was very, very fun. She had the personality that you were probably either intimidated and just like, or you just loved her, and she was in high school when she got pregnant. She had, oh my gosh, this story. I was I was a junior in high school, and some girl just randomly came up to me one day and said, "Kayla, is Katie pregnant? Is your sister pregnant?" And I was like, no. Why would you? That's stupid. Why would you ask me that? So then that afternoon, Keely and I were driving home from school, and I was like, "Oh, so and so asked me if you were pregnant," and she's like, "Well, what'd you tell him?" And I was like, "Well, I told him no. What do you think I tell him?" I had no clue she was pregnant. She's like, "Well, what'd you tell him?" I told him no. So go back in time a little bit, or actually, so a little bit, I guess, a little bit later. This was like the beginning of April, of her senior year in high school. So she was almost graduated. And then my mom comes to me one day and says, "Hey, I need to tell you something, and let's go outside." And I was like, "Okay, weird." So we walk outside, and she tells me that my sister's pregnant. And then I'm just like, dramatic. I was like, "Oh my God." And she's like, "Chill out," because I guarantee you that she's looking at you right now through the window, and she doesn't need to see this. She's scared enough as it is. So stop. So, okay. And I was like, well, that's weird. Somebody asked me if she was pregnant. I told them no. And this was like the week before, maybe. And then all of a sudden, all these things start going in my mind. I'm like, she threw up every day. She had morning sickness every day. And I saw it every day. No clue what it was. I didn't know she was pregnant. So I go back and I see all the signs, but I had no clue. And so I was like, so, okay, when's the baby due? And she's like, in 2 days. I found out that my sister was pregnant 3 days before she had her daughter.
Holy cow.
Did she not show, or you were just that blind?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, but your mom didn't know either, right?
No, my mom knew. My mom knew. My mom found
okay.
out, but Keely had decided that she was going to give the baby up for adoption, and so they just weren't going to talk about it. And so my mom finally told me, or she told me. My other two sisters didn't know. The only people that knew were Keely, my mom. My mom told my dad at some point. I don't know when. And my mom's sisters, my aunts. My mom had told them, and that was it. And so the only reason that she told me that particular day is because they had gone to the doctor, and Mom had said, "I don't care what we have to do, but this baby's not going to another family. This baby's coming home with us. If I need to adopt her, I will, but she's ours. This baby, what I'm saying, they didn't know it was for a girl. The baby's ours. And so mom, mom told me that day that might have been the day that she had her. Now that I'm thinking about it, but so she told me, and then okay, it was the day before. So then the next day, Keely starts having contractions, and my sister Carrie and her husband at the time, Roger, were coming over. Roger and my dad were going to go to a boat show, and Carrie was just going to come over and hang out. But I'm sitting there with a watch timing contractions because, the minute I found out she was pregnant, I was drawn on the spot. I was ready. I'm timing contractions. My mom meets Carrie outside and tells Carrie, and we hear Carrie, holy shit. Sorry to bleep that out. They're outside and we heard it. So Carrie turns in and Keely starts crying. And she's like, I'm sorry. I just, natural reaction. And so mom was like, well, the only reason I'm telling you is because we've got to go to the hospital. So we start going up to the hospital, and my mom calls my dad, who's at the boat show, Roger, who has no clue that my sister's pregnant, and tells that we're on the way to the hospital. And we're at the hospital. My dad and Roger leave the boat show to go to the hospital. My dad never tells Roger anything. So they're riding up on the elevator. The elevator doors open, and my dad looks at Roger and said, Keely's pregnant and she's having the baby. And walks off the elevator. And my brother-in-law at the time looks at my sister and was like, did you know this? And she's like, I just found out. So.
Now listen, y'all get an award for being a ride or die and keeping your mouth shut. Y'all can keep a secret.
Heck yeah. So I was just,
That
so
is
she
Godfather type. Never talk about, never like tell anyone outside the family.
Tell anybody outside the family what
That
you're
is
thinking.
some good stuff, man. You Brandon's got it down.
Yeah, we do. So we she had a little girl, Kelsey is her name, and they came home from the hospital, and then mom was like, well, she's here, I guess we better start telling people.
Yes,
So, my
That's
oldest
amazing.
sister still
Yeah,
doesn't know.
Maybe go buy some diapers or something. Huh?
Oh my goodness, isn't that crazy? So my oldest
Wow.
my oldest sister, who was going to SFA,
Yes.
she had friends up there that weekend at her college. So this, I don't remember. I think Kelsey was born on a Thursday or a Friday, and Keon kept calling. It's like she just knew something was off, something was going on, and she had friends up there, and she ended up leaving her friends and coming home. She's like, "There's something going on. I gotta go home." So she left her friends that had traveled from Channelview to SFA to see her. She left them and came back home to Channelview and found out that Keely had a baby. And then my mom had my grandmother's brother. They called him and told him and his wife, my Aunt Faye and Uncle Clyde, that Keely had a baby. And so they lived in East Texas at the time. And so they drove to let them know that Keely had a baby. And my grandma was like, well, why are we here? So she just starts packing a bag. There was never any anger, never any, there was just concern for Keely and the baby, and we have a baby and let's go. So, there was no time to disappointment. There was, nothing like that. So they came over and, it's like not a perfect situation, but life was perfect. You know what I mean? And so,
What was she like as a mother?
she was such a good mom. Kelsey's biological father was not the greatest guy in the world. He really heavily involved in drugs and stuff. He basically didn't want anything to do with Kelsey from the day she was born. Keely told him that she had the baby, and he was like, "Not my baby." Never wanted anything to do with her at first. And I'm sorry. And so Keely devoted. That turned her life around. Kelsey changed her life. That she devoted all of her life to Kelsey, and so the first 3 years of Kelsey's life, they were inseparable. And Kelsey was pretty much had every one of us wrapped around her finger. That's awesome. Yeah. So, in the middle of that, after Kelsey was born, my sister Carrie had a baby, had a son. My sister Kim ended up having a daughter. She was the one it was Riley was born. Actually, when I was pregnant with Jacob, the day that Riley was born, I didn't even know that I was pregnant. I was just barely pregnant.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she was just a really good mom, and she doted on her and just, thought the world of her. How just I can't say enough good things about her, how she was as a mother. She was a good sister. She was always fun. I mean, obviously we fought like sisters do, but she was a good sister. I know that my mom started telling me all the story about the day that she had passed, but what I remember was we had our floors, a pipe in our bathroom had burst like a day or two before her accident, and everything in her room had to be boxed up. So her entire room, her bedroom, was boxed up and kind of put to the side because we had to redo the floors and stuff. So I don't remember there being people there visiting. I just remember doing that, having to do that. And I was like, had just started. I mean, Ruben and I had been dating for about a year, and I was in love, and I had a date with Ruben, and I wanted to borrow her shoes, and she told me, she wouldn't let me borrow her shoes, and I got mad at her because she didn't want to go through the boxes and find these one pair of shoes that I wanted to borrow. And so I was mad at her, and I left the house angry with her, and I was ticked off. And when I met Ruben at Bennigan's, and Kaylee was the type of person that would, when you saw her, she had her makeup on, she had her hair fixed. I mean, she just was always done. She stepped out of the house ready to go. It took her forever to fix her hair. That was just her personality. And like I said, I left the house angry with her. And Ruben and I went to Bennigan's, and I'm sitting at Bennigan's, and I look over, and Keely is sitting at the bar at Bennigan's, her hair back in a ponytail, wearing a t-shirt and shorts and no makeup on, and she just waves at me. And I just waved back, and I went over there and I said, "Well, what are you doing here?" She's like, "Kim," my sister Kim, who was pregnant at the time. She goes, "Kim was craving Bennigan, so we ordered it to go, so I'm just picking it up." And you will never convince me that that wasn't God's way of giving me my goodbye. Because there was no animosity, there was no anger, there was, it was just me and her. And very thankful for that. Anyway, that was a Sunday. She was going to a rodeo that night, going to see Reba McEntire, and I think that's one reason why I don't really care for Reba McEntire's music, because I mean, that's a side note, but
Yeah.
I just don't like her because my sister would see her in that concert. But
Yeah.
they had gone to the concert, and then it was like a 4 or 5 o'clock show. It was a matinee show. She at like midnight, 1 o'clock, my mom was trying to figure out where she was, and nobody knew where she was. And of course, in my mind, I'm like, I can't believe she's being so selfish and not calling. Why she's not here. And then when my mom and dad went to look for her, they went to some of her friends' house to look for her. Our phone rang, and I answered the phone, and this is like 1 a.m, and I'm 19 at the time. I answered the phone, and it was a funeral home director, and he didn't ask me who I was or how old I was or anything. He just said, "This is so and so. Do you know Keely Brannon?" And I said, "Yeah, that's my sister." And they said, "Well, are your parents home?" I said, "No, they're out looking for my sister." And then he told me who he was. He said, "Well, this is such and such with whatever funeral home, and your sister's been killed in a car accident." Radio. I mean, I don't know how to react to that. I was like, this is not funny. This is not funny. And my sister Keely was there, and she's like, "Haley, give me the phone." And I said, "They said that Keely's dead." And so she grabs the phone, and she's talking to the person. And then about that time is when my mom and dad came home, and they had already heard the news as well. So what happened was they had gone to the rodeo, and they had met up with some friends of a friend, and these guys had been drinking, and Keely didn't know this. She didn't know this guy. She didn't know, he was very good at showing the fact that he wasn't drunk. But apparently he had been drinking quite heavily. And so they were going to someone else's house just to play pool and hang out. And she didn't know the way. So he was like, I'll drive you. So she rode with him, and he was going really fast and wrecked the car, and it killed her. And she the seatbelt actually killed her. She was wearing her seatbelt, and it crushed her chest. And
I'm so sorry.
Did something happen to him? Was he held accountable, or?
eventually he not very. I mean, he got slapped on the wrist, honestly, but he after years, because it took that long just to go through the court system, he got 190 days in jail, or 120 days in jail, 120 days in jail, and he had to pay $10,000 restitution to Kelsey, and 10 years probation, where he had that little blow and go device in his car.
That's awful. I'm so
That feels
sorry.
like not enough.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
doesn't.
not
yeah.
enough. And, never an apology. They were informed by their attorney to not contact the family.
Mhm.
So, it's like he never admitted that he made a mistake. I think that had he come to the family, or his parents or somebody had come and said, we're so sorry this happened, it wouldn't have brought my sister back, but it might have been a little bit easier to take, I guess,
Yeah.
admission of guilt, and then, an apology. But
Yeah.
so, that was March 3rd of 1991, and Kelsey turned 4 on April 11th of 91. So my mom and dad adopted her, and her biological father signed over all his rights, so they were able to adopt. And eventually he came around and asked if he could have a little bit of visitation, get to know her. But she has a better relationship with her stepmom, who was married to him at the time, but she doesn't really see him very much. But she's thriving. She's married, has a baby, and doing very well.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
She's doing really good.
That's awesome.
Obviously, that's a terrible, terrible loss. And, I mean, like my mom lost her little sister in a car accident, as well, back in 2008. So I couldn't imagine what that loss is like. What do you remember about like your mother during that time? I mean, obviously the loss of a child was, I would imagine, devastating, so what do you remember, or what is your, I guess, impression of, how your mom was during that time? And obviously we'll ask her when we talk to her, but
yeah, because what she dealt with and what I dealt with, obviously
very different. Yeah.
She went into survival mode for Kelsey's sake, and everything revolved around her. Everything revolved around Kelsey, and I can't. I find no fault in that, because I would have expected the same thing. I know a lot of people. There have been things that have happened since then where I'm like, okay, Mom, you have other grandkids, or you have other, you've got other, great grandkids, but at that moment in time, I can't fault her for that. And I think that she dove so heavily into just making sure that Kelsey was okay, that a lot of things did kind of, I think that was a main contributing factor to her marriage ending. And because my dad's the type of person that when he left my mom and went to a woman who was just 100% about him, doted on him 100%. And he needed that. He needed to be the center of someone's attention, and he wasn't getting that anymore. And not that, and he went through his own problems where Kelsey was, Kennedy's God bless me for saying that.
Yeah.
I,
It's
I
okay.
don't want to say Kennedy is my daughter, and by
Oh,
me saying
got you. Okay.
Jesus, please, I'm not. Don't take it. Wow,
Yeah. Take it
Keely,
back.
I take it all back. He had a lot of anger management. He dealt with a lot of anger and ended up going to like hospital and staying in a hospital to try to he was let go from his job because
Yeah.
they thought he was gonna like go and shoot the place up.
Yeah.
They were concerned for his mental health.
Yeah.
And
Because this is the loss of his daughter, right?
his
This is his
daughter. Yeah.
biological daughter.
His
Yeah. So
daughter.
your mom and his biological daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, my dad changed a lot after that. Throughout my life, there were times when he was in and out a lot. There'd be months at a time that, we might not even see him. And then, but when he was home, times were good. We had good times, but there were still plenty of times when they weren't. And I remember those times because it was a struggle. It was always a struggle. Like mom, because he didn't help my mom financially. He didn't do any of that stuff, which is one reason why I'm so thankful for my grandparents because they took care of things. When my mom, they made sure that we had everything we needed. I don't think that my mom provided very well, but they kind of did this little bit of extras.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it takes
How
a
long
village.
after your mom? How long after your mom, after they adopted your niece, how long was your dad there?
He was actually there for about 10 years. So
Okay.
I think, so Kelsey was 3 when Kaylee died. And then I remember, I think she was maybe 12 or 13, and I could be wrong.
Yeah.
So it was a while, but that was a lot. He was always there during that time. He never stepped out, so to speak.
Yeah.
All of the coming and going before was when I was a child. As an adult, we went to church. We always went to church. Everything was great, and it's just, but I could just see a gradual decline in a lot of things, and things that you don't always notice at the time. Then you look back and you're like, you see it.
Yeah.
But so it was 10 years, and again, Kelsey was his life too. I mean, they were inseparable. She was his shadow, and then one day he just decided he was done. We didn't see him for like 2 years, and so
Yeah.
a 13-year-old going from someone being like everything to her to being non-existent. She has a lot of anger issues where he's concerned, especially. And then her dad was a real piece of work too. So I told her she had meltdown. She's like, no, I don't. I was like, yeah. You do.
It's okay.
Poor baby.
Embrace it. It's all right.
Poor baby.
Did she have memories of her mom? I know she was so little, but like,
I don't know. We talk about her. We talk about Kaylee. It's never been a topic that we've never like tried to hide anything. And, we've always talked about her. It's always, we keep her memory alive.
Yeah.
I'm sure she does, but she doesn't always. Kelsey's a lot like my mom in that she holds a lot inside, and she's a worrier also. She's not always really vocal about that kind of stuff. But I can't imagine that. I have memories from when I was 3.
yeah.
Yeah.
Very few and far between, but I have some, so I hope she has some.
Yeah.
I do hope I hope she has some.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And what kind of things do y'all, well, you said y'all talk about her openly, your sister. What kind of things do y'all do to honor her? And how do you keep her memory alive?
We are tatted up.
Yeah.
That's true.
Honor.
I remember
My
when
mom
you got
got
that. That wasn't super long ago, because I remember when you got that. Like,
yeah, it wasn't that long ago. I've got 4 tattoos total, and they all have some significance, because I'm not going to get a tattoo that, just, random SpongeBob tattoo. If y'all have one of that, I'm sorry.
You're like, we ain't judging. We're
No,
just
no.
saying.
Yeah. You do you. But my mom's never like loved tattoos, but I think, to me, that's But one of my other sisters never had a tattoo, and it was actually her idea. It was Carrie's idea to go and get the tattoo. She wanted to do that, and so it was her first and only.
Yeah.
And so, but I think as far as like honoring her and keeping her memory alive, just honoring her, we are, just by talking about her, she's not going to be forgotten. She's absolutely not going to be forgotten. So my daughter Carson just walked in. So, okay. You can say hello if you want. Hi, Lydia.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm a Baby Train, Carson and Crazy Train. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. It's about mothers and daughters. Come on in. We'll talk to you.
I am her daughter. She is my girl. Any questions?
What do you really think of your mom?
I love her stuff. I know we butt heads sometimes, but like, she is one of the only people, not even just women, but the only people that I can go to for anything. And I adore that about her.
Look
I
at
said
you,
that. I said
Mama.
that your mom is very present with people, like when she's talking to people, and she's just she's a true ride or die.
Yeah, she's a Virgo too, so
Yeah.
I interrupt. She tells me that. She's like, Mom, it's because you're a Virgo. And I'm like, okay, whatever you say. I don't know much about that. Love you too, baby. But
So that's one of your daughters. You
one of my
got
girls.
yeah. So we've talked about you came up. We'll kind of swing back to you as a mother. Like you talked about you as a sister and as a daughter and you as a mother. So you had where we left off, but you had Jacob. And then you eventually had the girls. What would you say you were like as and what was it? Because like you had Jacob at 21, almost 21.
Yeah, I was 20. I was
and
almost
20.
It was
and then
20.
when did you have the girls?
I was 24.
24. So you're still a young mom.
Are they twins?
Yeah, they're twins.
Okay.
Infants.
And what was
And
it like for you as a young mom? And young married, young mom. What do you remember most about that? What do you like most about being a mom? Let's start there when you're young.
most about being a mom, I mean, what's not to like? I mean, I can't pinpoint one particular thing. I mean, I can't. Like I told you, where Jacob is concerned, I feel very blessed that I changed my mind, that my decision was changed, and when Ruben and I first started dating, I don't know if you'll know this, but he's Mexican. And I'm very white.
I knew that.
And I don't know if y'all knew that.
Girl, we are that.
We're familiar.
Yeah. But there was a little bit of controversy, especially with my dad's biological mother. She told me that, and I'm gonna say this because she's dead and whatever. She was not a typical grandmother, so she's not anyone that I ever clung to and needed her opinion. When Ruben and I dated, she told me that Mexican men usually beat their wives, and that I probably shouldn't date him.
You can try.
And I was like, "Do you even know me?" So, and anybody that knows Ruben, that's he's just
so passive. I mean, he's just like the most chill.
He's like whatever.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I just maybe I shouldn't say this, but I will. So Ruben and I have been married for 32 years. He's my one and only, and my sisters have both been married a few times. And the Mexicans say the white folks did not.
They're committed, girl. They're committed.
I mean, you might have to edit that out. I don't know. I don't want to offend my sisters, but they've been their relationships. So they've not had the best luck in their marriages, but
they can have their own episode and tell their side of the story.
Right.
So you just tell them. So give me Carrie. I was open and like.
And I just the only thing that I've ever wished for my sisters is for them to be happy.
Yeah.
And I swear to you, sometimes I think they love Ruben more than they do me. So, and And I say that jokingly, but at the same time, I mean it, because they love him, and that means a lot to me. So
Ruben's lovable. I love Ruben.
he is.
Like, Ruben's a
Yeah,
good
he has
guy.
his moment.
We all do.
But he's good people. Yeah.
So,
He is.
He's
So,
funny.
I used to have people ask me all the time, because I had Jacob was 4 when I had the girls. And so twins run in my family on my mom's side, on both of her parents, my Mimi and Pappy, both had siblings that were twins. And so it would stick the generation within each one of their families, but the way that it worked out, it was like it didn't skip a
it was
generation.
inevitable.
Some of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was the lucky one. And then I have a cousin that has twins, and then I have a cousin on the other side of the family that has twins. So
Yeah.
there's twins all throughout my family. None of them are identical. They're all fraternal. I'm the only one that has 2 girls. Everybody else has a boy and a girl. So
Okay.
although it's questionable, Kennedy, man, that girl wouldn't show anything. We thought for a long time that she was a boy, and she
Yeah.
is quite a tomboy.
So
But,
how was that raising 2 girls at the same? Because I had them back to back, and so it's it's a challenge to juggle the personalities because they're coming up behind each other, and I always tell the story that they both had a set of teachers that was the same teachers, and they were like, I'm looking so forward to having Ariel next year. I was like, girl, it ain't the same show. It's going to be a different like it's a different personality.
When I was growing up, my teachers in school would be like, oh my God, the last Brandon girl, thank God.
Yeah.
I was like, dream compared to my sisters. You're going to love having me.
Yeah. So how was it having 2 girls?
I used to have a lot of
2
people always ask me, how did you do it with? And I was like, I didn't have a choice. You just do it.
Yeah.
You just do it. And they are 2, Lydia can, she knows this. They are 2 totally separate people. I mean, they don't look alike. They don't act alike. They're just totally different. But I tell you what, they will take up for each other like snap, and that's how it should be. So they're, I can't imagine. If I had to choose, I couldn't, there's no way I could choose.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
They're so beautiful. Like, they're beautiful girls. They really are.
They're mine. They're my babies. They always will be. I can't imagine life any other way.
Yeah.
And now you are not only you're a wife and a mother and a daughter, you are now a grandma.
I am.
You do have a
That's
grandson.
so much better than motherhood.
Yeah, but that's what when you were saying because I didn't know that you had thought about not keeping the baby when you got pregnant. And so the first thing when you said that, when you said you didn't know me, I was like, do you want to say the baby's name? I don't know who.
It's Asa.
Ace. I didn't know if you want to say the name, whatever.
No,
that was my first thought because he's such a cute kid. He looks just like his dad. And I was like, but Asa, like you can think about when you make decisions like that,
make choices like that.
How your life could unravel. And
If I had made that choice, I wouldn't have him. And man, that little boy has me wrapped 20 times around his finger. I didn't know I was that flexible, but I am. There's just nothing like it.
Yeah.
And he's 3, and I am blessed that I get to work from home. And so I have him like 3 days out of the week. He comes, sometimes more. He spends the night on Tuesday nights, and he is all about his la la and pop pop.
Sweet.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love
And
it.
we are all about him. We're happy about that. So
Yeah.
I feel bad, when my girls start having kids, I know I'm gonna love their babies as much as I do Asa, but
Yeah.
they're probably concerned.
They're probably worried.
They shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's lovely for you. I'm a beautiful family, and I'm so
Oh God,
for your kids and your grandbaby, and you just you have a good little life going there, sissy.
I do. I am extremely blessed.
You're very, very blessed. Yeah. Do you want to talk about the changes in the last couple years?
to your family tree? I will. I will. You know what?
I have a good transition to this because it's part of your story.
It is my story. You know, I think that, you know what, everybody has a testimony,
Yeah.
whether it's good or bad. And I honestly think that, I mean, I told you before, God can take something that could have been so
Absolutely does.
so
Yeah.
horrible and turn it into such a blessing. And maybe this can be my testimony to somebody that's going through this right now. But yeah, I mean, I've
Talk
been
about
through
it.
it. I've been through it. You know,
So you're gonna have to go back to the very beginning of what
Yes.
the catalyst was for this change.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
because
So,
I don't know
y'all-
the story. I
y'all
don't know the full
remember-
story.
Oh,
Dude,
y'all
this is
remember,
all
like,
we talked about on Bachelorette weekend. Because this is
Okay.
when she told me this story.
Yeah.
And
it was
we're like,
brand spanking
brand
new.
spanking new. We're at my bachelorette party, and I'm like, what? What happened? Like, what? This one was all around the bar at this rental beach house, and we're just enthralled. I'm like, I know I'm getting married, but I don't even care. Let's do
Such a good
this.
story.
It's such a good story. Let's like everyone get a
It's like,
cocktail. Let's go to the bar and sit around and talk about this.
That's that.
But for whatever, we're obsessed with this story and the DH Gate app. Going to look for fake Louis Vuittons on
Yeah, which
DH
I have one.
Gate.
Love it. Yeah. Disclaimer before I start. I don't know how my mom is going to feel about me telling this, but I'm going to tell it anyway. And I want anyone that is listening to know that I have no anger or resentment towards my mother whatsoever. She's a wonderful person. And when all of this happened, she was 23 years old. She was a kid. So
So I always,
From there-
that's what I always preface thing is think about your brain at 20
at
and
that age,
who
and what
you
she
were.
was going through at that
Yeah.
time. And I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell my story, and I'm gonna tell what I know of her story at
Mhm.
that time.
Yeah.
And whenever y'all do talk to her, you know, she might not want to discuss it because I don't want, my main concern for all of this is I don't want my mom to ever feel bad about this. I don't want, you know, I mean, it happened, and I don't want her to feel bad, but at the same time, it's my story,
Yeah.
and she says that too. And
Yeah.
so,
And one of mom's favorite things to say is that there's healing in the light. And when you put
Yeah,
it
it's
out
true.
there, regardless if people crap on it or not, if it's healing for you and it's healing for somebody else and God steps in and heals something, then
that's right.
you know.
And on a less
So-
Christ-like notion, like I said when we were offline, nobody has the balls to say anything to your face. And I'm like the rookie girl. I was like, I will take my earrings off and
she's
defend.
working on her Christ-like
Oh,
stuff. Okay?
Lord.
Well, I've said it before too. Even Jesus flipped a table every once in a while, and you kind of just need to when people deserve it.
I
Yeah,
remind
yeah,
people
yeah.
quite often that Jesus made me this way, and He loves me.
Yeah.
Yes,
And-
he does.
You know,
And
Give
that's
him
who
a
he
break.
used, that's who he used to get you here, okay?
that's right.
So how about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I
Yeah.
do something wrong, guess what? He's gonna forgive me.
Yes,
yeah.
he does. Yes, he does.
Not that I'm looking
Yeah.
for something wrong, but don't mess
Just in
with
case.
don't mess with my mama. You know, I just
Exactly. We'll
I just
fight to do the never Miss Judy's.
yeah, I just don't want, you know, I know that she gets concerned about maybe the way that people are going to view her. And I just, you know, to me, my mom she's everything.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's-
everybody has a past.
Yeah.
Not all of it. And those that say their past is just crystal clear are liars.
Yeah.
it's got liars.
Everybody's
We've
got
got punch them in the throat liars. Yeah.
it. Yes.
So,
So y'all remember my niece, Kelsey?
Mhm.
Aw.
I've told
Yes.
y'all that.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting at home one day and I get a phone call from Kelsey, and she said, she said, Kayla, I did my ancestry DNA, and I'm looking on the app and it's telling me that you're my like half aunt or cousin or, you know, something. And I was like, well, that's weird. I was like, that would mean that. So we're in our mind, we're doing the math. I was like, that would mean that either your mom was conceived by someone else or that I was. I said, but you know, these things are not 100%. Let's call Noni. That's what we call my mom. So we call my mom. She answers the phone and I'm like, so mom, who's my real dad and is he rich? And she's like, I don't know, you know. So and then I don't even remember the rest of the conversation, but she got off the phone like fast. And then my niece calls me back and we were on a three-way. We were on a three-way call. We all hang out. My niece calls me back. She goes, so Nani's answer was kind of sketch. I'm
That's
going to get to the
weird.
bottom. Yeah. She's like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this if you don't care. I was like, go ahead. I don't care. Because I mean, I honestly, at the time, I mean, it was like, it hit me that at the same time, I was like, there's no way. There's no
Yeah.
way. Fast forward about a month, and my sister Carrie calls and says, okay, Kayla, I don't know what's going on, but Kelsey's like really pressuring this DNA thing. What do you think's going on? I was like, I don't know. I said, I'm not really worried about it. I don't care. And I really hadn't really thought much about it. I mean, every once in a while it would come up and I'd be like, that's really strange. And so then after like 2 failed attempts by my mom and my sisters of having like little get-togethers to go have lunch or whatever, we tried. My mom got COVID. Then we tried again, and I wasn't able to go because we had a rodeo cook-off, and I was like, I could go, but I won't be able to go for an hour. And my sister was like, no, I want to spend more time with you than that. So let's reschedule. And I'm like, it's just, big deal. So then we finally get to meet, and I could kind of tell something was off, but I was just, again, like, my sister being pregnant, oblivious. I was just like,
Yeah.
whatever. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my sisters and my mom's behind me, and she's like, Kayla, I've got to tell you something. And I was just like, I just looked at her and I said, Bill Brennan's not my dad. And she started crying, and she said, he's not. I didn't cry. I didn't cry. My mom was crying, but I was just like so worried about how she was doing that. I mean, I jumped in from the start going, Mom, are you okay? This is okay. Look, I'm okay. This is okay. She's like, I wish I could tell you it was a love story, but it wasn't. Your dad, Bill Brannon. I'll call him Dad and bio dad because Bill Brannon is still my dad. He'll always be my dad. Your dad is, I was 23 and I had 3 kids at home under the age of, 6. And she had stepped out for, I don't know, the umpteenth time. And it was just kind of an FU moment to him. I was like, you know what, if he can do it, I can do it too. And she said, and I was with my friend, we were at a bar, I met this guy, I saw him twice, and here you are. And she remembered his name. And she said that she remembered that he had a son, but he was, at the time, she said he wasn't married, or he was separated from his wife. I don't know, but he did have a son. And but all she could remember his name and remember that they were around the same age. And that's not a lot to go off of. So, she's like, but I would never change anything. If I could go back and change anything, I wouldn't, because I wouldn't have you. It's not I would never, it's not a mistake. I would never think of you as a mistake. But she said, over the years, she just convinced herself. There was always a possibility when she found out she was pregnant, right? So when she found out, after she was with my bio dad, like a week later, my dad came home. And so there was a possibility when she was pregnant, there was a possibility that I was Bill Brannon's daughter. And she convinced herself over the years through different like blood tests and stuff that my sister Keely and I had done in school. So we had the same blood type. She goes, okay, well, he's gotta be her dad. So she just, there's a one person in my family that's got the dimple. My great grandpa Asa had crystal blue eyes, and so she just over the years convinced herself. And then when Kelsey did that DNA test, she was just like a little bulldog. She wouldn't let it go. And so I found out that day that my sister, Kelsey kept calling my sister Carrie. Carrie called my sister Kim, and they talked about it. And she's like, okay, well, I'm going to call Mom and just see what's going on. So she called my mom, and she's like, okay, Mom, Kelsey's not letting up. What's going on with this ancestry thing? What is it? And my mom said, it's Kayla. And so, over the next 2 months, we try to meet, and obviously they knew what we were meeting for, but I didn't. So, we finally found out, and we had a birthday party to go to later that day, and I still hadn't cried. I mean, I'm not a super emotional person, and that happened after my sister died. I just kind of built up I'm there. I feel I have empathy. I just don't necessarily, you're not even seeing in the form of tears, And so, when the first time I cried about it, I got home that night and I was just sitting there. I was talking to Ruben because I mean, I went home and I told him, and everybody's just in shock, in total shock. And let me remind you, my mom was 23 with 3 kids at home. She was a kid herself, so I don't blame her. I know that there are people that would be so angry with their mother and just so hateful and ugly, but I don't, and I can't. My mom to me is probably one of the bravest, most just wonderful people in my life. And I'm not going to throw any hatred or I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to have anybody else doing it either, But, so I was telling Ruben about it, and I went on my ancestry just to see what it said about Kelsey, and I noticed that I had started building my family tree, and it had Bill Brandon on there. That's when I started crying. But I had to take my dad off my family tree, and that hit me really hard. And I think I cried more in that 2 weeks than I have in my entire life. I walked around just in tears, and it was just the shock of everything, and it was just like I felt like my entire life was a lie, and not a malicious lie, not anything that was intentional, but a lie nonetheless, and it was hard. It was very hard. And my mom, she would call me and just say, there's going to be a time when you're angry with me, and I want you to know that I'm ready for it. And please just don't quit talking to me. Just call me. Let's talk through it. Let's just, we have to talk about this. I can take your anger. I deserve it. I can take it. Just call me, talk to me. And, never felt that anger. And I hope I never do, because I just don't. And I think that in of itself is a testament of how great my mom is, because I just can't do it. I
was about to
can't.
say that goes to the deeper relationship you have with her.
Yeah.
I think if
I
it's a trust thing. When you trust somebody, it's easier to not be mad at them or something, or something like that.
I just can't do it. There's a lot of prayers going up around that time, and she's kind of praying about it and asking God to just kind of show her some different things and just lead her, and just kind of be a little bit more helpful in everything. And she had a dream, and she remembered his birthday. She said, the only reason I remember it, I remember the day, but not the year. But the only reason I remember it is because Keely was due on July 25th, and I had her July 31st, and his birthday was July 25th. And so that's how she remembered that.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister Carrie works for an attorney, and so she's able to, view things and see things that maybe the normal public shouldn't, and she probably shouldn't either, and maybe I shouldn't be telling this to y'all. we found him on Facebook. So we found who we thought it would be on Facebook, and it turns out I have a half brother that he's a year older than me. His birthday's, I think, August 4th, I think. And I'm August 25th, so he's like a year and 20 days older than me. And so I didn't want to reach out to my biological father. I reached out to my brother instead on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And I just sent him a message, and it wasn't immediate. I really kind of like, do I really, I have a dad. Do I really want to bring this in, with curiosity got the better of me. And I was like, you know what? This man can be walking around, that's not fair to him. He's got a daughter, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would want to know if I had, obviously if I had a child, I would know that I had a child, but a man is different.
Yeah.
But, so I sent him a Facebook post and, or a message in Messenger and just said, hey, I've got some information that I think you might be interested in hearing. Do you please message me back. I'd like to talk to you. And like 2 weeks later, just randomly, he messaged back, I'm listening. That's all he said. I'm listening. This is your brother. My brother.
Yeah.
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 So I messaged him and I told him, kind of just the condensed version of the story, just that, hey, I think I'm probably your biological sister, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, well, you know what? My dad told me I had a sister out there. And, I'm so glad. I didn't think I'd ever get to meet you. I'm so glad I get to meet you. And I was like, I'm not that sister. Your dad, trust me, he doesn't know about me. So
Yeah.
I found out that way that I actually have another sister as well.
Wow.
And so we go back and forth talking a little bit. And I was like, I'd like to talk to him. Do you think, sorry, my cord fell. I said, do you think he'd be interested in talking to me? And he said, absolutely. And so I was like, well, if you'll give me his number, I'll call him. And so I gave him my number, and we exchanged phone numbers. And then like an hour later, I just get a random phone call from Ron Alexander. And I was just like, this man's calling me. And I didn't answer because I was checking. And I was just like, this is it. This is it. So I didn't answer, and he left a message. And Kayla, this is Ron Alexander. I have the message on the phone. I haven't deleted any message that man has ever sent me. Kayla, this is Ron Alexander. My son Alan called me and told me that you think you might be my daughter. I would really like to talk to you. Can you give me a call back? And so I didn't even have a chance to call him back because he called me. I mean, it was like 5 minutes later, he was calling again. And so I answered the phone, and I think that day we talked like 5 or 6 times, like throughout the day. And each time, he would ask questions where, did your mom say where we met? What kind of car was I driving? Who was I there with? And I was like, well, she didn't see your car. She said that you were there with a friend. And he goes, well, maybe my brother, but I didn't, and I was like, look, I don't know. I don't know what it was.
But wasn't there, bro? That's news to me.
Well, kind of, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh. And so then he, at one point, he's like, I was like, look, if you want to do blood work, blood test or something, I am more than happy to do that.
Yeah.
I said, I know my mom, and if she's saying that it's you, then I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's you, because my mom did not, she's not a whore.
Yeah.
She wasn't a bad hopper. But if you need that, then I am more than willing to do that for you. And he said, I maybe will do that at some point, but right now, if it were to come back that you weren't my daughter, I don't think I want to know. And I was just like, okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so he called back, and he's like, he's like, well, I sent him pictures of I said, this is what my mom would have looked like around that time. And he's like, well, man, I believe I'd have remember a redhead like that, My mom was she was a smoke show. She was pretty hot. He said, I believe I would have remembered a looking redhead like that. And he goes, I just don't remember meeting her. And I was like, well, you did a lot more than meet her. For starters. You did a lot more than meet her. And he's like, he's laughing. He goes, well, I guess so. And he just, I could hear in his voice that he would tear up and he would start crying, and that a little bit later in this story, that'll be a lot more interesting for you. But he just, the last time before it was solidified that, okay, he was like on board 100%. Okay, I know you're mine. I said, you know what? My niece found this on Ancestry. I have people on Ancestry that I have no clue who they are. Let me name some people off. So I just started naming off people that I was like, who's this person? Who's this person? And he's like, I named off these people. I was like, Mitch Gorman. He goes, that's my cousin. And I named off another person. I named off, Justice Richards. That's my nephew. I was like, they're my family too. And he goes, I don't need a blood test.
Yeah.
I don't need a blood test. You're on. I was like, I know. So he's like, well, you know what? I have waited 50 years for this. He said, My son Alan has never been married. He doesn't have kids. I just found out today that not only do I have a daughter, but I have 3 grandkids and I have great grandkids. And I do not want to wait another minute to meet you. And, can we meet this weekend? Reuben and I drove to Brenham and met him and my brother halfway. And, he, we were at a restaurant and he walked up and I turned around and I just see I see myself, bright blue eyes and just, it was really cool. So we've kept in major contact. I mean, I talk to him probably 2 or 3 times a week. We've seen each other several times since then. He hadn't shaved his beard in like 15 years, and he shaved his beard just so he could show me his dimple. He said dimple. And
Wow. Hey, Kayla, I love this for you.
he is like, I love my dad. I love Bill Brannon, but I've never felt like he's never been the doting father. He's never been that way. And this man is so much about me. And he doesn't have the greatest relationship with my stepbrother. I mean, my half brother. They're kind of on the outs, but I think that a lot of that has to do with the way that he grew up. But he's just very tough, very rough on the outside. But I can bring him just to tears like that. He tears up and he's just so thankful and so happy to have this family that he's never had before.
Yeah.
And he's just like, in fact, I talked to him today and he has a pacemaker and he's having something replaced. And he's like, I got to take better care of myself because I feel like I really have I want to be around so much longer.
Yeah.
And, well, it's just really, when I first talked to him, he could have been like, I don't care. He could have just, like totally just turned his back on me and just, walked away, but he didn't. And I think that I've been just as much of a blessing to him as he has been to me. So it's just been a really cool story.
Yeah.
My biological my half sister, she's never met him. She didn't want anything to do with him. She was adopted. Her name is Carrie, and her name is spelled the exact same way as my other sister Carrie, and it's Kari.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But she had a lot of mental problems and health problems, and I talked to her on the phone, and it was kind of, I ended up talking to her on the phone. No one else did, but I don't know how I got lucky, but I was able to track her down and talk to her, and she was really excited about having a sister, and that I could tell that mentally she had a lot of issues and problems, and she actually, right before Christmas, she killed herself. So
Oh, so
I never
sorry.
I never got to meet her.
Yeah.
So I didn't. I mean, I have regrets where she's concerned because I didn't get to meet her, but then I'm also thankful that I actually didn't get to meet her because if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, I wish I could have, but at the same time, I think that it would have been harder if I had, because the issues and problems that she had, I couldn't have saved her.
Yeah. And have your well, you said Reuben met him, so have your kids met him?
Yes.
And how's that relationship?
So he's met obviously me and Reuben and my kids and my grandkids.
Mhm.
He's met a couple of my friends, and just because he happened to be here when they were here, but he hasn't seen my mom. He hasn't seen my other sisters. I don't think that either of them are opposed to it, but it's just, I need to,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, how, like, I mean, obviously, I know that you have a good relationship with your mom and everything, but has this revelation affected anything, like, with your mom? I know you said, we'll go ride or die for Judy and protect her at all costs, obviously, but I mean, has it affected anything? And I would imagine no.
No, not really. I mean, not my relationship with her. I mean, I don't think poorly of her. I have no regrets. I have, if anything, I'm more protective of her than I ever have been. I've always been protective of my mother, but I'm even more so now because I don't want, people are going to think what they want. People are going to say what they want, but that's important to her about how people perceive her.
Mhm.
And I mean, I guess at the end of the day, nobody wants anyone to think poorly of them, but I'm the type of person who's like, if you don't like me, that's your problem,
Yeah.
That's too bad for you because I'm awesome,
Yeah. Everyone
And-
should
Your
know
loss.
Kayla.
Yeah.
That's your loss.
Yeah.
It's your
Yes.
loss.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
anybody,
Yeah.
and that she doesn't necessarily feel that way. So I
Yeah.
just don't, I don't want her to, I don't want her to have, I don't want there to be repercussions for
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
Very protective of her, but
Well, you can tell Judy she's got three
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
advocates.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does.
that
She,
understand, and that I think that's sort of what we want. What I'd like to help create is just that community of people who are not perfect,
yeah,
and we just have, but it's the learning grace and learning to love people and to be kind and to
the empathy for what your mom was going through at that time.
yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
not being judgmental,
Yeah.
you know.
yeah. If you ever expect to have
Judgy.
grace extended to you, then you need to learn grace.
Absolutely.
yeah.
And we've all needed grace. So the only
100%.
problem I think that and it's not even really even a problem, but it all stems from that. So whenever she first told me, she was like, can we just kind of keep this quiet and keep it between us for now? Because her
Mhm.
sisters didn't know and family didn't know. And as much of it, that was a shock for me, but it's a shock for everybody else too. And so since then, the people that love my mom and know my mom know. The people
Yes.
that maybe they love her, but from afar, maybe acquaintances or friends from years ago or whatever. Not everybody. She has some very close friends that don't know, and then but very close as in they've been close for a while, but maybe they don't see each other all the time. But the people that matter, the people that really matter, the majority of them, they know, and they don't judge her, and they love her, and to me, that's what's important.
Yeah.
So, we waited to tell. We did not tell my dad, Bill, mainly because it's not that I have a bad relationship with him. I don't really have. So, I was like, why hurt him needlessly? I'm his daughter. He doesn't need to know anything different. So we purposely waited to tell him, and we just weren't even going to tell him. And then I was in my dad lives in my bio dad, Ron, lives in the Austin area. And I was up there visiting him one day, and I posted a picture of he and I on Facebook, and I don't know if it was his birthday or Father's Day, or it might have just been out, for what the hell. But I put, I love you, Dad. And then I was like, but I was kind of hesitant about posting it. I was like, I don't know if I should do this or not. And then I was just like, you know what? He's not a dirty little secret. And I hit post. And what's weird is like on my way home, like I got a call from Bill Brandon, and I was like, he saw it.
Yeah.
He doesn't have social media, but I was freaking out because I just knew somebody
Of
called
the
him.
day he chose to get a Facebook.
Yeah, I was just like, God, he
God.
knows. So I didn't answer the phone because again, I was chicken, and so I didn't answer the
Which
phone. So then I,
surprises me that you say that about yourself, because like you're one of the bravest, most whatever people. So I don't see that chicken in you, but okay,
well,
we'll go with it.
I say chicken, but honestly, it's like I didn't want to hurt him.
Yeah.
I just didn't. I knew talking to him that I didn't think that needed to come from me. I thought it needed to come from my mom. She needed to tell him, not me. That is my story, but that part of the story was not mine to tell. She needed to tell him. and I just didn't want to hurt him, you
Yeah.
know. And when Ron called me and I was chicken, girl, I was just chicken. I was just like, oh my God, the moment it's through. Which was like, oh, I'm not really ready for this. But so instead of answering Bill's call, I called my mom, or I sent a message to sister to my mom, and I was like, okay, Cat's out. I think it's time to tell Dad. I think he needs to know. And I sent them the picture and showed her everything. And Carrie was like, well, it's about time. He needs to know. Well, Sister Carrie from day one has said he needs to know, you know, because he's going to, if he finds out some other way, that's going to be more hurtful than if y'all tell him. He needs to know. And I was just like, how's he going to find out? So finally, you know, I called Mom and I was like, Mom, I need you to tell him. I know you don't want to, but I need you to tell him. And, she's like, okay, well, I've got to do this and this and this. And so she can put it off a little bit. And because I think she was, you know, that's not a call you want to make, you know. But
That's what I
she
can't even
called
think
him.
of how you even say it.
And I was like,
So-
she called them and oh my gosh, it's funny. So she called him and she's like, so Bill, I gotta tell you something. She's like, she didn't tell him the whole story. She just said, you know, years ago, you and I were separated, and I was with somebody, and turns out 50 years later, we just found out that Kayla's not your biological daughter. And she didn't want to tell you because she's afraid that it might change your feelings towards her. And that's true. I mean, I was afraid that because I don't have that relationship with my dad, I was afraid that he was going to be like, oh yeah, great, one less person I got to put in my will. I could care less about the will, but you know what I mean. And so she was off the phone, like a minute. She was off the phone. She told him done. And so probably left him speechless, but he immediately called me and said, when the phone rang, I was like, crap, but I answered it. I answered. I wasn't chicken this time. I answered it because I just, he's my dad. And so I answered it, and he told me, your mom called me and she told me, and he goes, you know what, that was a really difficult time in our lives, and I can't blame her for that, but I just want you to know that I don't care what DNA tests say, you are my daughter.
Yeah.
And that's the world to me.
Yeah.
And I honestly probably talked to him more since that phone call have been 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of, I mean, it's, I don't talk to him as much as I do Ron, but I talk to him more than I did.
Yeah.
Is something. So that's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
So.
It's just more people to love you, Kayla. More people that get
And
to
let me
love
just
you.
say, I'm glad you told him, because I'm sitting here sweating thinking, dear God, they haven't told him yet. Can't put this out if they haven't told him.
Well,
Yeah, my thoughts exactly. If it went now, it is now.
I'm sweating.
I'm you know what? In the midst of it, I was like, you know what? Why hurt him? I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to hurt him. But now that it's out, I'm glad he needed to know. And I couldn't see past, how it was going to hurt him to see that, there can be some healing in it as well. So,
yeah. Well, and that's a testament, even if the relationship is not, ideal or whatever, that's still a testament to how good of a man he is, to even just say,
he absolutely isn't.
Doesn't change
my
anything.
biological father will say that. He's like, you know what? I don't have a bad thing to say about your dad because he raised you and look at you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, was he a perfect dad? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a perfect daughter, and I'm not a perfect mom. I'm not a perfect anything. So I just, Lord help me, I know we can all be judgmental, but I try not to be. Especially, I think I've grown so much, and I'm able to extend so much more grace now that I've been in the midst of needing it and being around people that need it as well. So
yeah. Well, it definitely gives you a perspective of what grace is, and the need to live in it, give it, because someday you might need it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my mom texted me a minute ago and said, call because you're done. So I feel bad because I feel I feel bad because I don't want her to feel bad. So
Mhm.
that's where that's where all of my
Yeah.
anxiety is, because I just, and I know at the end of the day, she's going to be like, no, Kayla, it's your story and you tell your story. I just, I'm just concerned what people are going to think. But,
Yeah.
I don't want her to feel that way.
Yeah.
We don't want that either.
Yeah, we don't want that either.
I want to empower her to just be like, whatever. You know what? Yeah. I did it. I was 23 years old. I screwed up, but look what happened. Look what came out of that.
And you tell her if
So-
anybody says anything to give us a call.
Right.
We will, what is it? The horses. We will, whatever the horse is, and we will
Rally
yes,
the horse.
whatever it is.
I knew what you meant.
Yes.
We've got a public forum now. We'll put them on blast.
Yeah, I've
On
got
the
like
internet.
12 subscribers on YouTube for our channel and 1,200 people on TikTok. We will Team Judy.
I'll be like,
100%.
do you know who my dad is?
Yeah. Hashtag back Judy. Okay.
Yes.
That's right.
So it's just, I think that we all do stuff. Like we all have these parts of our
Yeah.
thing. And at the end of the day, and we talked about that before on other episodes. Like I said, Dory said like the meme one, and we're just worried, we're always worried about what people think. But at the end of the day, you don't pay my bills.
And people are going to think, people are going to think what they're going to think, and they're going to say what they're going to
Yes.
say, and it's going to go up and it's going to go down and it's going to be done, and they're going to forget about it.
I guarantee you there are more people out in the world right now who want grace for the decisions that they've made. They want grace for, the good times, the bad times. They want to just be accepted for who they are. And like you said, there's nobody perfect. Everyone, we all have, stories, and we all, what is it? The scars is what makes us beautiful. And it's not, perfection is boring.
Yeah.
Who wants perfection?
I've got, it's like people want to be mad at her, and poor Kayla, I can't believe she did that. I'm great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How boring would a podcast be? We're all just sit around and talk about how everything is perfect and aesthetically pleasing. It would be the boringest podcast ever.
Everything is.
I'm thinking there's people out there that want to meet your mother now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she's so full of character and
She's awesome.
grace. Yeah, like you said, grace. She's full of grace. My goodness.
Yeah.
And so sweet and all. And
she's
overcome. I think she's
overcome more than a lot of
she's an
people.
overcomer. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
and people want to know that there's hope and help. That they're not the only ones that are going through the stuff. So she'd be a great blessing to people.
Yeah,
and her testimony and her resilience will be fun to watch. So I think there's people out there that want to hear more from her.
Yeah. And I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah.
No.
Miss Kayla, I love you. I miss you.
We all love you.
Thank you so much for coming on and trusting us with your story. Thank you for talking about your family and your sister and your niece. Thank you to everybody who is listening. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe. By the way, we need people to rate us on all these podcast things too. So go in and rate us. And I'm not saying you have to give us 5 stars, but I'm just saying 5 stars would be best. I appreciate it. Be sure to like, follow on your social media, and then tune in next week for another episode. Everybody have an awesome night.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it. Bye.